What happened in episode 5 of House of the Dragon? We Light the Way. Let's break it down in nerdy detail. Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to Deep Geek. On this channel we cover A Song of Ice and Fire and The Lord of the Rings and much more. If you love in-depth discussion of great fantasy and science fiction, then please consider clicking the subscribe button in the bottom right of your screen. The episode opens with Rhea Royce, Daemon's wife, out hunting near her home at Runestone. House Royce are an ancient and storied house in the Vale, and they pop up all over the place in George R.R. Martin's work. You may remember the noble who was killed by the others in the prologue to A Song of Ice and Fire. That was Waymar Royce. There was also Jon Royce, who was prominent in the TV show A Game of Thrones, and they will make an appearance again later in this story. In-world, they are probably most famous for the runes they inscribe on their bronze breastplates that are supposed to keep the wearer from injury. We see that here in this episode. Unfortunately for Rhea Royce, in this case, it isn't particularly effective. Daemon turns up and, without a word, her horse rears up and throws her. He smashes her head in to finish the job. It's not 100% clear how he makes the horse rear up. Let me know in the comments if you know, but his intention and execution are clear. In Fire and Blood, this is left a lot more open. It's clearly all very convenient for Daemon that she dies, but there's no evidence that he actually did it. Indeed, he was elsewhere at the time. Before we leave this, there's one other thing we should note as a theme here. Daemon not being able to finish, as it were. Rhea confirms that they never actually consummated their marriage, hence the lack of children, but throws the accusation at him as she thinks he is about to leave her to die. This comes on top of him apparently not being able to finish with Mysaria and walking out on Rhaenyra last episode. This isn't something in the books, so let's see where it goes from here. Another theme we should acknowledge is Viserys not being well. It started off with just a few cuts and infections from the Iron Throne, but now it's a lot worse. He's coughing all the time, nosebleeds, and he collapses at the end of the episode. And people have started to notice. The issue of succession is not just a theoretical point anymore. As Otto puts it to Alicent, the king will not live to be an old man. And both sides think the other will start a war over it. Otto tells Alicent that Rhaenyra will have to kill her children to assure her succession. Rhaenys tells Corlys, as she told Rhaenyra, that the powers that be will never accept a woman on the Iron Throne and will go to war to prevent it. But Viserys is, in this episode at least, doing his best to secure Rhaenyra's succession by marrying her off to Laenor Velaryon. This is sensible politics. It brings the Velaryon's fleet, money and influence back into the fold, and at the time of the episode, it means that all of the Dragon Riders, if you include Daemon, are now Team Rhaenyra. Corlys is a proud man, though, and pushes a hard bargain. First, there's a bit of a snub not meeting them at the door, instead sitting on his throne while Viserys has to approach him like the lesser man. And then he demands a discussion about succession. Laenor and Rhaenyra's firstborn child will inherit the throne, Viserys assures him. And what about their surname? Children should be named after their father, so Velaryon. He's basically asking for the ruling house of Westeros to change from Targaryen to Velaryon, a massive demand. Viserys' compromise here that the children will be born Velaryons, but when they become ruler, change their name to Targaryen is a reasonable one, albeit coming from a position of weakness. As I said, this is all about sensible politics. But beneath the politics, there's a reality. Rhaenyra and Laenor know each other and seem to get on okay, but he's gay and in love with someone else, and she seems to be quite taken with Criston Cole. She suggests a very pragmatic approach. They do what they need to do to keep their fathers happy, marry and produce an heir and probably a spare, then they will each dine as they see fit. This comes almost verbatim from what Daemon was saying to her last episode. A marriage need not be the end of things. She should do as she wants. And Laenor goes with it. Joffrey, his lover, seems to love the idea even more. The only problem is Sir Criston. On the way home, he suggests something else entirely. They could elope. Forget the marriage. They could go to Essos and just be together, the two of them. They could marry each other there, leave all of this behind. Rhaenyra puts back to him the idea she pitched to Laenor, They could still be lovers, but she does have to marry Laenor. She even seems about to tell him the big Targaryen secret that they have to keep the family line going because of Aegon's prophecy, but he storms off. It seems that he has been harbouring a lot of guilt about what's been going on with Rhaenyra. We touched on this last time. He'd come from nowhere, promoted to the Kingsguard, and swore sacred vows of chastity, which he has repeatedly broken. In his mind, the only honourable way out of this is to marry Rhaenyra. They could be husband and wife, and he could be at peace with his life choices. So all he hears from her is her saying no to that. The only way she wants it is to carry on in secret, with him continually breaking his vows. We'll pick up on what happens next with him in a moment. Because now we come to the wedding feast, and a whole host of people making grand entrances, as is the way at weddings. First, Jason Lannister. He's still the same, and Rhaenyra visibly rolls her eyes at his antics. The Velaryons turn up. This is their big moment, and it's noticeable that they have brought Joffrey Lonmouth, Laenor's lover, with them. Daemon strides in, silent and brooding. He's still banished, remember, and apparently not invited, but it's a wedding, and Viserys doesn't want to make a scene, so he gets a seat at the top table. Sir Gerald Royce confronts Daemon and accuses him of killing Rhea Royce, which he did, and pretty much everyone else kind of assumes it as well, even if they don't say it out loud. Daemon doesn't deny it, and rubs salt in the wound by announcing that he intends to go back and claim Runestone, House Royce's seat, one to watch out for next time. Because then Alicent arrives. Alicent has been busy behind the scenes this episode. First, she gets her father's warning to ready baby Aegon for kingship because the king won't last forever, a point underlined by her seeing him collapse on his return to the Red Keep. She clearly feels alone in the Red Keep and without allies. Then we get the intervention of Larys Strong. We touched briefly on him last time as he made an under-the-radar bow, just listening in to everyone's conversations. Now here, he takes a moment to drop a bit of information in Alicent's lap. The king ordered Rhaenyra be given some herbal tea, made quietly and delivered by the Grand Maester himself. Larys is quite obvious here, but perhaps that's partly because Alicent seems a little slow to pick up on it. This was moon tea, for preventing unwanted pregnancies, so Rhaenyra must have slept with someone, despite her swearing on her mother's life to Alicent that she hadn't. Given the rumours, Alicent naturally assumes it was Daemon. And wanting to corroborate the information, she summons Criston Cole to delicately ask what happened with Rhaenyra and Daemon, but he thinks she is talking about him and Rhaenyra, and overcome by guilt, he confesses all. One of the most fun parts of the book is trying to figure out exactly which side Larys Strong is on, but here he certainly seems to be starting out on Team Green, or at least trying to gain Alicent's trust. But the important point here is that Alicent is now on the warpath. Her previous affection for Rhaenyra is now burned up. She enters the Great Hall at the precise moment she knows everyone will be looking at her, and when she gets a moment, goes over to talk to her family, the Hightowers, who assure her of their support. This is a change. The old, humble, dutiful Alicent is gone. But now we get the real drama, because the dancing starts, people mingle, and we might even have had a glimpse of Mushroom, the legendary fool in the Kings and Queens courts of Westeros and a massive book favourite. Laena Velaryon and Daemon flirt, keep an eye on that, and Daemon goes on to confront Rhaenyra. Does she really want to marry Laenor? She pushes back just as hard. If his game really was to marry her, then why doesn't he do something about it, right here and now? This is all dramatic stuff, but the real spice is when Joffrey Lonmouth figures out that it is Criston Cole who is Rhaenyra's lover. Joffrey is really up for this idea of Rhaenyra and Laenor technically being married but both able to carry on with their lovers as well, and wants to make contact with Criston Cole. They have a shared interest. They should look out for each other. But Joffrey obviously doesn't know all that has transpired, and that Criston really doesn't want that, and that he's fresh from admitting his guilt to Alicent and doesn't know what she will do with the information. The anger and frustration is just bubbling under the surface, and he lets it out on Joffrey, killing him. He retreats to the Godswood to commit suicide, but Alicent stops him. This whole incident, why Criston Cole, who had been Rhaenyra's closest companion, abruptly changes sides just before her marriage to Laenor, is one of the most intriguing passages in the book. We are given several possible explanations, each of which have elements of plausibility to them, but don't really seem to fully answer the circumstances. There, the reader is left to decide. Here, on the show, we get an answer. Criston Cole was racked with guilt over what had been going on with Rhaenyra. He wanted to elope with her, but she said no, instead suggesting something that would only make Criston's guilt greater. Alicent stumbled across the truth, or was pushed that way by Larys, and made the most of it, being the understanding, forgiving one, giving him another chance. So Criston now both hates Rhaenyra like a wronged lover, and is grateful for Alicent's apparent kindness. As George R. R. Martin has recently confirmed, in his mind there are two canons, book canon and show canon. So this isn't so much confirmation of the truth of what happened in the book, as letting it remain a mystery in the book, while here we know what happened. The outcome is the same in both. Almost as an afterthought, Rhaenyra and Laenor do get married. This is politics, after all, and all of the emotions around the outside matter little. Joffrey Lonmouth's blood is still on the floor. Laenor can't stop crying. Rhaenyra was only saved from the mini-riot by the decisive action of Harwin Strong, another Strong to keep an eye on, and Viserys collapses. It's hardly an auspicious start to their marriage. But what did you think of this episode, and what did I miss? Let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to see more House of the Dragon videos, please click on the link appearing now on the left of your screen. Or to support this channel and get access to exclusive Deep Geek content, please click on the link to Patreon on the right of your screen. That's all for this time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.